I'm an attorney at Packard Deer King here in Boulder, and I have the good fortune to be involved in the Boulder Junction, the beginning of it. My client, Peterson Development Company, is the 3100 Pearl development that Dave Driscoll had referenced before. And so we've been working with the city for over a year on kind of the initial planning that has to do with the whole transit center and getting Boulder Junction funded and rezoned for what everyone wants it to be. The first phase of Boulder Junction includes the area, I think Dave Driscoll showed a map earlier, but it's from Valmont on the north to the rail line on the east, 30th Street on the west, and then the ditch that is just south of Pearl Street. So a fairly significant area. And there's actually 16 separate properties in that area. And so meetings with the property owners were started about a year ago. And of this total 16, 9 agreed from the very beginning to be involved in the process and agreed to get the upscale zoning from industrial to mixed use 4 and residential 6 by agreeing to be part of the general improvement districts. And so what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is how the improvement districts are the catalyst, if you will, for getting some of the infrastructure in place to make the Boulder Junction the transit-oriented development that everyone wants it to be. So what we had to do first was actually petition for the formation of the districts. There's actually 2 districts. One is for parking and one is for transit demand management. And in order to get those on the ballot, we had to submit a petition, which was executed by district electors and property owners in that area. And the city goals for the project were to make sure, from a parking and transit management perspective, to make sure that there's incentive for zoning. So as I said, as part of this, if you agreed to be part of the general improvement district from the very beginning, you were automatically upzoned into the MU4 or the R6, which is a very positive incentive. Coordinate parking, as was discussed earlier, making sure that there's a parking receptacle for the actual transit development, but also trying to coordinate parking along Pearl Parkway. It's not been a very transit-oriented area there. They'd really like it to be more pedestrian-friendly, so that's also going to be part of the project. In addition, there's going to be public financing for this. Part of the districts are being funded by bonds, and so it was very important to make sure that all the property owners were willing to take the increase in taxes that would take to get before the districts were formed. In addition, it was imperative that the property owners were involved early on and felt comfortable with how the upzoning and the development of the project was going to ultimately benefit their properties. So as I said, of the 16 total properties, 9 had agreed to participate. And there have been, 6 have been rezoned to mixed use 4, and 3 have been rezoned to residential 6. In addition, also as was referenced earlier, the RTD was able to get legislation passed in order to allow them to have affordable housing on part of their site, and that's going to be a key component for getting the development plans approved by the city. So as I mentioned, there's 2 general improvement districts. One is for parking, and one is for transit demand management. For the parking, debt was approved for up to $13 million with a repayment cost of up to $32 million. And the revenues generated from the ad valorem taxes would not exceed 30 mils. So that's a pretty significant tax increase. But again, the property owners all felt that for this development to be successful and to get the upzoning, this was an acceptable amount. For the transit demand management, the debt approved was up to $2.5 million with a repayment cost of up to $5 million. And the revenues generated not to exceed 20 mils. So again, very important infrastructure for getting all the, as I think Troy was saying earlier, getting all this structure in place to make sure that when the development did come, when people were ready to get their projects approved, everything was in place. So the most significant part for me working on this was having such a cooperative project with the city, quite honestly. I've done a lot of work in Boulder for a long time, and it's not always quite as collaborative, and it was very collaborative this time. And I felt like by including the property owners very early on, it was a really wonderful opportunity for a win-win, with the city getting what they wanted in terms of the transit-oriented development, really allowing this part of Boulder to be more of a hub, to be more creative, inventive. And then the property owners really being given an opportunity to participate and say, yes, this is something we want to do. We're willing to take some of the upfront costs to get it done, but ultimately with the upzoning, it'll make it beneficial. So here's some examples of how we feel like this approval has been a success. The majority of the property owners in the phase 1 did agree to be included in the general improvement districts up front. There was a cost associated with that, but as I said, they got the upzoning, which was very positive. Those that didn't generally are within businesses that aren't really looking for redevelopment right away. The election approving the debt and the mill levy for both general improvement districts passed unanimously by both the required electors and the property owners. Again, I don't think that's ever happened before. There are 2 other general improvement districts that have been very successful, but I don't think they had that sort of success rate. As somebody also mentioned, I think Dave mentioned earlier, my client's project at 3100 Pearl has just been approved for the development. So it will be the first project that has been approved and kind of the hub for the program. And that went through very smoothly. Again, I will say a very positive and supportive project for the city. And then finally, just noting again that the RTT component of this, the property, is going to be have an affordable housing component, and the RFP has already been distributed and expects to have bids in by January. So even though I think Andy was saying that this is kind of a long-term project, and it certainly will be, things are moving very quickly, at least to get the project started, and I think this has been a very successful collaborative project.